Hello, and welcome to an episode of ES Repair. I am your host, Mr. Fix-It. In this episode, I'm going to show you how you can speed up your version of Windows XP. Now, it's no longer supported by Microsoft other than security patches and fixes until the year of 2014. Now, you need to use caution because some of the things I'm going to show you is not for the faint-hearted. And if you need further assistance, you can either contact me through the channel, or you can go to my website at www.mrfixit.com to get more information about speeding up Windows XP. Okay, now we're looking at the Windows XP desktop. What we're going to do is check to see if your computer really needs to have a system memory upgrade. Now, most of the time it's not necessary. If you're just using it for, say, internet browsing, emails, perhaps listening to music, things like that, you probably really don't need a system memory upgrade. But if you're like me, who you do video editing, you do burning CDs, DVDs, photo editing, play intensive games like I do, then yeah, there's a possibility that you may need a memory upgrade. But to check to make sure that you do, we're going to follow these simple steps. Press Control, Alt, and then Delete on the keyboard. This will bring up Windows Task Manager. Here you can see the applications that are currently running, processes. This is all the processes that are being currently run. The username of the user that the program's running from. The amount of CPU processing that the program is taking from the CPU. And the amount of memory each process is using. Then you have the Performance tab, which I will show here in a minute. Your networking. This shows your adapter name, network utilization, link speed, and the state that it's in which case this says operational. Now, whether you're using an Ethernet or a local area connection, or if you're using Wi-Fi, you can use this to check to see how well your network is doing. Users identifies users that's listed on here. Why it's not showing mine on here, I don't know, but probably a computer glitch. So what we're going to do is go back to Performance. Here you have CPU usage. This refers to the percentage of the processor that's being used. The lower this number is, the better. The usage history on this side indicates the history of what the processor has been doing. As long as the numbers stay low, then your processor is doing very little. The page file listing here shows how much of the page file is being used. Currently it's showing just under 400 megabytes. For the history, this also shows and indicates how much of the page file has been used since the last boot up. Totals. Under totals, when you look at handles, which is this one here, this one reveals how many resources that are being used by programs and processes such as registry keys, fonts, bitmaps, or the icons. Threads, which is the second one, indicates the number of tasks that programs or processes are performing. Now, a single program can have several tasks or threads. Processes is the number of programs or processes currently running on the computer. Now, I will show later on how to free up memory by shutting unnecessary programs, services, and processes. Under physical memory, this indicates the amount of physical system memory that you have. The total is the amount that you have combined. Availability is the amount of free memory in the system. Currently, I have a total of 3 gigabytes, which, by the way, Windows XP 32-bit version is the highest it can go. Available, it shows 2.5 gigabytes. The system cache is used by Windows. It indicates the amount of RAM being used for recently accessed programs and data. When a program or a data file is accessed, it is then loaded into the cache, even when the program or data file is no longer in use. The computer will look in the cache before it goes onto the hard drive. The reason being is because the computer can access data and information for the memory modules a whole lot faster than it can from a hard drive. So the system cache is the amount of memory that's being used for this purpose. Currently, as it's all located, is 63 megabytes, or 638 megabytes, my bad. The kernel memory refers to Windows core components. The core components is everything that makes Windows function. The total here lists 70 megabytes. This is the amount of memory that Windows is taking up. Paged, which I will get to later, is the amount of memory or the amount of Windows that had been paged to the page file, removed from memory. Non-paged is the amount of memory that's being used by Windows itself. This is everything that's running in the core. Commit charge. This is a very important section that we need to look at to determine if you really need to have a memory upgrade. The total refers to the combined amount of physical memory and virtual memory, or the page file, being used in kilobytes. Currently, it shows that 406 megabytes are in total. The higher the commit charge, the more strain on the system. The limit is the amount of virtual and physical memory free for use. Currently, it's showing 5 gigabytes, 5.8 gigabytes. The peak indicates the highest total amount of memory used since the computer was last started. Now, here's where it becomes important. If the commit charge total exceeds the total physical memory, this can somewhat slow the system down. This is because Windows relies on the page file located on the hard drive. It has to clear out all the idle programs from the physical memory and relocate them to the page file. Now, if the page file fills up, then the system is out of memory. The constant transfers from memory to page file and back to memory will hinder system performance considerably. Now, remember, the memory can be accessed faster than the hard drive. Another thing to look for is the peak commit charge. This is frequently, if it is frequently or near the limit commit charge, an increase in the page file size, which I will show in a minute, or physical memory upgrade is needed. This event indicates a problem with low memory. The page file size should be 1.5 times that of total physical memory that's installed. Now, as you can see here, I don't have that problem because I have 3 gigabytes installed. Now, most computers will come with either 1 gigabyte or 2 gigabytes. And whether you need to go up to 3 will depend on what the use of the computer is. Now, let's take a look at the page file. You need to click Start, Control Panel, scroll down to System. Now you need to come up here and click Advanced, and then move down and click under Performance, click Settings, and then click the next tab over, which is Advanced. Now down here at the bottom you'll see where it says Virtual Memory. Currently it is set for 2.9 gigabytes or 2,935 megabytes. What we need to do in your case, if you are requiring to increase the page file, let's try that first. Let's change. Now you can see that C is highlighted and it's under System Managed Size. Well, this always causes some problems because Windows sometimes constantly changes the size of the virtual memory to suit its needs, and that can fragment your hard drive and possibly slow your system down. So, remember, the page file needs to be 1.5 times that of what's physical memory is installed. Now down here you'll see memory minimum that's allowed is 2 megabytes, Windows recommendation, and what is currently allocated. Well, this computer here that we're looking at has 3 gigabytes installed. You can select the drive. It'll tell you the drive you're going to put the page file size on, and it's going to tell you how much space is available, which, as you can see here, there's plenty. Next, we'll choose custom size. The initial size is the minimum that you're going to have the page file. In this case, for 3 gigabytes, to make it 1.5 times, we need to have 4.5 gigabytes. Now, take note that this is in megabytes. So 4,500 megabytes is the same as 4.5 gigabytes. Now, to ensure that Windows doesn't change it, go ahead and make the maximum size the same thing, 4,500 megabytes. When you get done, choose Set, and as you can see, it has been set to 4,500 megabytes. This is the minimum, this is the maximum. When it's set both sides, that means that Windows cannot change it. This will help boost performance. Next, click OK. Now it will say the changes you have made require you to restart your computer before they can take effect. Click OK. Now, under Visual Effects, here's another part that you can use to increase the performance of your computer. By default, it says let Windows choose what's best for my computer. Now, if you want to help speed it up, you can choose either Best Performance, which disables all the visual effects, because Windows, for some reason, especially when you get to Windows Vista and Windows 7, it's got more visual effects than Hollywood. Now, you can also choose Custom. Custom will allow you to select certain features of visual effects to use. For example, you can want to animate windows when minimizing and maximizing, and you can smooth edges of screen fonts, which I will get to in a minute, and you can use visual styles on windows and buttons. Here you can select which features you want to use. I'm going to select these. When you're done, choose Apply, and then choose OK. And then you can choose OK again. Now, it wants to know if you want to restart your computer, because remember, we did make some changes to the page file. Now, right now, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to show you the other things that needs to be done. Then we can go back and reboot the computer. So click No. Now, other things that we can do to help free up memory would be to remove dynamic link libraries. Now, when you start a program up, it automatically loads its own resources that the program needs. For example, dynamic link libraries. When the program shuts down, not all the DLLs are removed from the memory. This is due to the way the OS is operating. It keeps dynamic link libraries in memory in case the program starts again. This takes up valuable system memory, which will hinder performance on computers with little memory. To force Windows to remove unused dynamic link libraries from the memory, we'll need to start the Registry Editor. Now, before you get started, you must take caution, because the Registry Editor is no toy to play with. The wrong the wrong changes to the registry can render Windows useless. So the first thing you want to do is back up any important data that you want to keep, just in case it screws up, because mistakes do happen. And we'll need to click Start. After you've done all that, click Run, type Reg Edit, and choose OK. Now, this is a Registry Editor. This is a core of Windows. Everything that controls Windows, from hardware to security, user preferences, hardware configurations, you name it, it's all taken care of right here. This is the direct approach. Now, before you get to starting on this Registry Editor, you may want to visit my website. It's www.for-mrfixit, upgrade/registry101.html. This will give you the basic understanding of how the registry works and how to identify what sections of the registry does what. Now, back to freeing up the memory. To remove DLLs, or to force Windows to remove them, we need to find the registry key, Always Unload DLL. Now, not all computers may have it. So, we need to go to Local Machine, which is already highlighted. You can either use your mouse to double click or use the arrow keys, move it to the right to expand or move it to the left to collapse. And then you can move your up and down keys. Now that we got local machines open, we need to go down to software. Press the white button on the keyboard. It will expand it with the right arrow. Software. Then we need to go down to Microsoft. Next, go down to Windows. Be sure you click on the correct one, because you can see there's different ones. Open Windows. Go down to Current Version. Now, go down to Explorer. Now, if you look to the right now, you can see Always Unload DLL is listed. Now, not all computers may have this listed. If it's not, you can right-click the background, choose New, choose DWord to Value, and then type in Always Unload DLL, exactly as you see it up here. Now, once you have it entered, you'll need to change, if it's a 0, you'll need to change it to a 1. If you're adding the new name, when you open it up, change the value from 0 to 1. This will force Windows to unload DLLs. Once you change the value to 1, click OK. As you can see over here to the right, there's a 1 now. Now, if you're running older DOS programs or any 16-bit programs, you may experience errors using this setting. If you are receiving errors with this setting, you may go back and delete the entry, or you can give it a value of 0. Now, another way you can free up memory is by reducing the amount of colors from 32-bit to 16-bit. You could do this by clicking Start, click Control Panel, now double click Desktop or Display, choose Settings. Now you want to reduce your color quality from 32 to 16, and you may want to also reduce your screen resolution. The reason for this is the higher and the more pixels and the more colors that the computer has to track, the more memory that is required to do the function. This way, I have it set for the minimum, 16-bit by 800 by 600. This is the minimum, and will use a lot less memory. Now, you may also want to avoid DOS programs, since they do not allow Windows to control the memory or manage the memory properly. DOS programs hold on to the memory they use, preventing Windows from swapping them out to free memory for other programs using the page file. You can remove unwanted icons or unused icons from the desktop, because a computer has to keep track of each icon requires more memory. So the less icons you have on your desktop, the less memory that is required to keep track of them. So you don't want your desktop all garbed up with nothing but icons. Hogs up memory. To fix that, let's clean up the desktop icons. Right-click the background, choose Properties, choose Desktop, then go down to the bottom and choose Customize Desktop. Now you can select to have it automatically run Desktop Cleanup Wizard every 60 days if you wish. Or you can do it manually by clicking Clean Up Desktop Now. The wizard will tell you what it's going to do. It won't remove, change, or delete any of the program if you later decided you want the shortcut back on your desktop. It'll tell you what you can do. Now click Next. This will show you the icon, the shortcut's name, the date that it was last used, and as you can see, some of these have a never. They're automatically checked. Anything that's over 60 days, like these here, it shows you the last time they were ever used. Click Next. Select the one. If you can either have it select them for you, or you can select them yourself. Choose Next. Now, it's going to say that it will move the following shortcuts to the unused desktop shortcut folder. This is the list that it's going to move. Click Finish. And it's done. Now you just click OK. And then click OK again. And here is the folder that all the unused icons are placed. So if you decide that you need an icon out of there, this is where you'll find it. Now, another thing that you can do is turn off services and programs in the background you do not need or use. Now, by default, Windows runs every service and program known, whether you use them or not. That takes up unnecessary memory. So, click Start, click All Programs, and then Startup. As you can see here, there is one program listed in the Startup folder. You may have more than one. This is one of the programs that starts up when Windows boots up. If you don't want it, you can remove it by choosing Cut, right-click the file or the shortcut, and then choose Cut. Click the background, open up Unused Desktop Shortcut, right-click the background, and choose Paste. That is removed now. And then exit out. If you want them to stay in there, you can. Anytime anything that's in that folder, the computer Windows will automatically start when it's called for. Now, another thing we need to check. Click Start. Click Run. Type msconfig, msconfig, and press OK. Here, it lists everything which is a system configuration utility. Now, like the registry, this ain't as bad as registry. This is mostly used for troubleshooting, like if your computer's crashing when it boots up or a program is hanging, you can use this utility to to figure out which program is doing it. Click up here to Services. This lists all the services that are being activated when Windows starts. You have like your Windows Audio, Indexing Service, Computer Browser, Background Intelligence, blah 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 blah. Easiest thing to do is click Service up here on the bar. This will arrange them in alphabetical order. Now you can scroll down. If you're not sure what a service is or what it does, you can search for it on the internet to get more information about what its function is. Now you can scroll down and see everything that's on there. If you look here, if you don't have a fax machine or you don't use your computer to fax, you really don't need this service turned on. So just remove the check mark. Indexing service. Indexing service is used if you do a lot of searching on your hard drive looking for stuff that you can't find. The indexing service indexes everything that's on the hard drive into a file. So when you search for something, it searches the file instead of the hard drive, making it a lot quicker. Now, if you're not doing a lot of searching for stuff on your hard drive, then you really don't need an indexing service running. Why index something if you don't intend to use it? You can scroll on down and you can see all the things that you use. Remote Assist Access Connection is for remote access and remote desktop. This is used for technical support. Telephony and terminal services. That's mainly if you're using modems and stuff to reach BBS, bulletin board systems. You can mark those off. There's no sense in starting those unless you really need them. Themes you can turn off if you don't want to use all the special themes and backgrounds and stuff that the Windows operating system comes with. You can turn on Windows Firewall Internet connection sharing if you wish, if you're not going to use the Windows Firewall or its Internet connection sharing. You can turn it off. If you have a listing on here for Smart Card, disable it. Unless you're using a card swipe to log onto your computer or wherever the case may be, you don't need that service to run. Then you can scroll down and you'll see two different settings. One is called Wired Auto Configuration. This is used if you're using the NIC card or the Ethernet card to access a network or to use it on the internet. If you're not using an Ethernet card, then you can disable Wired Auto Config. There's no sense in running it if you're not planning on using it. Same thing for the wireless zero configuration. This is for wireless operations. If you're using anything with Wi-Fi, then you need to have this enabled. Now, be advised that some adapters use its own wireless configuration, and that Windows doesn't need it. If that's the case, then you can go ahead and disable it. If Windows is configuring your adapter, then this needs to be enabled if you're for the wireless zero configuration. And that's it for this part. Once you're finished with this, you can choose the startup. Now, under startup, list all the programs and drivers that's being loaded. Now, this is where you can troubleshoot different problems with programs. If something's locking up during startup time, you can use this to figure out which program's causing it. The only thing I don't like about it is they just give you little gibberish names and stuff where you have no idea what it's for. Now, just look it up on the internet and it'll tell you what significance it has. It also gives you the command. This tells you where the program is located and what the command's called, all the way down. The location of the command, as you see over here, this is a location in the registry, as I showed earlier, to where this startup command is located. Now, once you decide which ones you want to disable, then you click OK. And then it'll ask you that you need to restart the computer. And we'll do that here in a minute. So first, exit out without restarting. Now, the next thing we can do to speed up XP is Windows, as you've seen earlier when I showed you about what the page file was doing and the commit charge and the kernel memory. You've seen the kernel memory? Well, that's Windows. And it showed you how much it was paged to the hard drive, to the page file. Well, if you want Windows to perform better, Windows will often send itself to the page file to allow the memory to free up, especially if you have low memory. Well, it can slow Windows down. Now, if you have more than 256 megabytes of system memory, you can keep Windows resident in the memory permanently. Now, let's open up our Registry Editor again by clicking Start, Run, Reg, Edit, and choose OK. Now, I've got the program already running. To prevent Windows from paging itself to the hard drive, we need to find Disable Paging Executive. So we need to go to Local Machine, which is already highlighted. Open it up. Go down to System. Go down to Current Control Set. Open that up. Go down to Control. Go down to Session Manager. Go down, open that up. Go down to Memory Management. Now, if you look to the right, you'll see Disable Paging Executive. Now, if it's a 0, that means that Windows is paging itself to the hard drive. What you need to do is double click, change the value to 1. This will allow it to disable. Choose OK. Now, another thing that we can do to help increase Windows speed is Windows has a security feature that XP will clear the page file before it shuts down, which, you know, it can take several minutes or a minute or two to clear out the page file depending on how big it is. Well, unless you really don't need the security feature, turn it off. If you really gotta have it, leave it on. Now, if you look just above Disable Paging Executive, you'll see it right up here. Clear page file at shutdown. If it's a 1, over here on the right, if it's a 1, that means that the Windows XP is clearing out the page file before it shuts down. If you change that to a 0, it will turn this feature off and allow Windows to shut down quicker. Now, another thing that we need to check on to see if Windows, to speed it up, is Prefetch. Prefetch allows Windows to track most commonly used programs and files to be loaded into the memory cache for faster access instead of waiting for the hard drive, since memory can be accessed much faster. The registry key that we need is under Local Machine, System, Current Control Set, Control, Session Manager, Memory Management, and Prefetch Parameter. Now, if you look to the right, you should see Enable Prefetcher. Now, you have 4 options for Prefetch. 0 will disable the Prefetch. A 1, Windows will prefetch application launch files. A 2 will prefetch boot files only. And 3 would prefetch as many files as possible. Now, you can see what files prefetch by clicking Start, click Run, type in C:/ Windows / Prefetch. And it opens it up. Now, in your case, there may be a whole lot in this folder. A whole lot. Now, you can clear it out and put a different setting for the Enable Prefetch in the registry key to get an idea of what is prefetched. Now, since this is open for Prefetch, another thing that you can do to help speed up Windows XP is to clear out this folder once a month. Just select everything that's in the folder by choosing Edit, select All, then right click and choose Delete. And then it clears it out. Do it once a month. This will help speed up. This helps speed up Windows. Then you can exit out. So you can tinker with the prefetch parameter and see how Windows performs. As you can see here, this one here is currently set to 2. By default, most of the time it's set for 3, which prefetches as many files as it can. Another thing that we could do to help speed up XP is that XP uses New Technology File System, or NTFS, which is a step above the FAT16, which is the old version, and the FAT32, which was last used in Windows ME. But now NTFS allows long file names to be created instead of the traditional 8.3 type file names, for which the first letters can only be 8 characters long, and the extension could only be 3 letters. That was referred to the 8.3 type file names. When using old 16-bit programs, NTFS keeps track of the file names and converts them for the program to understand. Now, this process degrades the NTFS performance. It is recommended to use newer versions of your programs. Unless you really need NTFS to track 8.3 names, disable the registry key. Go to Local Machine, System, Current Control Set, Control, File System, and look to the right and you'll see NTFS Disable 8.3 Name Creations. If it's a 0, that means that Windows or the NTFS is tracking 8.3 names. If you have no reason to track 8.3 names for old 16-bit programs, you can change this to a 1. This will disable the tracking. Now, to speed up XP startup, have XP perform a boot defragment every time it starts. This will put all the boot files next to each other, which will provide faster startup times. Not all computers have this feature turned on. You can quickly check the key to see if it's enabled. Go to Local Machines, Software, Microsoft, Defrag or DFRG, then boot optimizer function. Now, look to the right and you'll see enable right here at the top. It should have either an N or a Y. If it has a Y, that means that Windows is defragging its boot files every time it starts. If it's an N, that means that the function had been disabled. I want to make sure this has a Y. Another thing that I can show you now is something very simple and very effective. What you need to do is click Start. Now this will work on any computer. Click Run, and at the prompt you'll need a %, temp, T-E-M-P, and then another %, and then press OK or press Enter. This brings up the temporary folder. This folder is used for temporarily storing data and files from installation, web views, things like that. And as you can see, it does get kind of cluttered up. And the more cluttered it up, well, the longer it's going to take for your computer to do its functions. So, once you're into the temp folder, select Edit, select All, and then choose right-click and delete. And then choose Yes. Now it may take a few seconds for it to delete them all. Now, as you can see here, once you get all of it deleted, some files you cannot delete because they're being used by a program. You can skip those, but delete everything else. And then you can see exactly how much this helps. Now, once you have that done, you exit out. Another thing that you can do now is click Start, Control Panel, Internet Options, and then choose Delete for browsing history. Now if you have favorites, then you can keep this one. If it's check mark, it will delete all the website's data for your favorites. It keeps cookies and temporary internet files that enable your favorite websites to retain preferences. Now you don't have to delete them if you don't want to. Now you can delete temporary internet files, which means anything from pages that you viewed, images, media, blah 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 blah, cookies, history, lists of websites that you visited, form data, data that you typed into forms, your passwords that you're using to access web pages, and you can clear out all the saved data used by in-private filtering to detect whether websites may be automatically sharing details about your visit. Once you select which ones you want to delete, choose Delete. And it can take a few minutes for it to do the process, depending on how much is in the file or in the folder. Another thing that you could do is defragment the hard drive. Click Start, My Computer, select which hard drive you want to defragment. In this case, we'll do C. Right click, choose Properties, then up here choose Tools, and then this is where you find your defragment. Now I personally do not recommend using the Windows version of defragmentation. It's not very good, but there are, however, third-party software out there that can do a whole lot better job than Windows' own defragment program can. So you may want to look into those. But if you choose to, this is where you go to use Windows defragmentation. And then choose OK. Okay, now another thing that we can use, which is basically for the user, is to use ClearType technology. ClearType is a feature which allows users with LCD or flat screens and laptops to better read the text on high resolutions like 1440 by 900 like my laptop uses. Now to turn on Microsoft's ClearType technology, right click the desktop, choose Properties, Appearance, and then Effects. Check to make sure that the use the following method to smooth edges of screen fonts is checked. And then select either Standard or ClearType. Be sure ClearType is selected. And then choose OK. Now, you don't want to use ClearType on standard monitors because it can make it worse and cause headaches on standard monitors like CRT monitors. Now, once you enable ClearType, it only works after you log on to Windows. So, to make ClearType work before the log on to Windows, open the Registry Editor again and change the following key. Now, I've got my editor back up. You need to go down to users, go down to default, control panel, desktop, and then if you look to the right, you should find font smoothing type right here. Now, this should have a value of 2. It's got a 1 because we turned it on. Now, if we change this, we need to change it to 2. So, double click it, change the value to 2, and then choose OK. This will force ClearType to be turned on when you get to the Windows logon screen. Then, all you have to do is exit out, and you're done. Restart your computer. Now, when you restart your system, you will get something like this popping up because we did make changes to the system configuration utility. What you need to do is click Don't Show This Message or Launch the System Configuration Utility again. Now, you can have it, if it's coming up, it wants to make it's used for troubleshooting. So if you did make some changes to troubleshoot to find out, what program was causing the problem, or if you can do without it, then you can go back in and make whatever changes you have to make. If not, you can just go ahead and click Don't Show This Message or Launch the System Configuration Utility when Windows starts. And choose OK. And there you go. You have your Windows XP started and booted up. Thank you for watching.